Welcome to our first Pharmacy Friends episode of 2025. If you're joining us for the first time, please consider subscribing and following our Pharmacy Friends podcast. In 2025, we'll be covering a slew of healthcare topics that not only impact the pharmacy industry, but the whole healthcare system.
After our conversation with him, we monitor his behavior for the next 6 months to see, what happened. We educate, right? We try to do one or two things with the prescriber. They're going to, obviously we report to regulatory groups, but if they're really a bad apple, they're going to keep up with their bad behavior. But if they're just caught up in a scheme, naive to the world, naive to the schemes with these individuals that take advantage of it, their behavior should be changing. We collaborate with our clients. We're big collaborators with our clients. We'll work hand in hand with them. I always tell our clients, we're not there to be behind you. We're there to stand beside you and making sure that we're a great partner. If everything we're doing and all the efforts we're putting forth, and I've said it before, if we can save just one life, it is worth it. It's worth it just to save one life. You can't put a cost on a life, right?
This episode is just super helpful as we uncover what it's like to investigate fraudulent pharmacies and why it matters for everyone involved. And we have such an impressive guest for you today. I can say without a doubt that after having the conversation that he genuinely cares about helping others. In fact, he used to be a chief of police of a suburban community in Minnesota. We're talking with Prime's Special Investigation Unit leader, Mitchell Scott. And right out of the gate, he describes how he wanted to broaden his horizon to help people in ways he never thought of before. He gives insight into how his SIU team at Prime works to protect clients, members, employees from people looking to take advantage of others through the healthcare system. And that's not it. He touches on how all of his team's decisions are based on one simple thought. Saving one life is all it takes for our actions to matter. And that's what they do best, providing the care they would want for their loved ones. What a great conversation and an even better guy to talk with. So let's get into this very helpful and insightful conversation to kick the year off. So now more than ever, bad actors are finding new ways to get a hold of and use private information, right? That's fraud. In 2021, healthcare data breaches, they resulted in more than 40 million compromised patient records. 40 million. Maybe it's something you or your loved ones have been impacted by and have your own story to tell as well. Personal health data is 10 times more valuable on the black market than credit card data. This is because highly sensitive personal medical data, it can be used in healthcare schemes and fraudulent activities. And keep in mind that unlike other types of schemes like credit card fraud, healthcare fraud can be harder to detect and undo. So the National Healthcare Anti-Fraud Association, they estimate that healthcare fraud schemes, they cost consumers tens of billions of dollars every year. And I can tell you as a pharmacist myself, and I've counseled numerous patients on this, that holding on to old, unused or expired prescription and over-the-counter drugs, even herbals and supplements, can be dangerous not only to patients but also to those around them, right? So their loved ones, their kids, their grandkids, and even pets, and helping patients understand safe and proper storage of their medications. So there are about 35,000 emergency room visits each year that involved accidental overdose in children under the age of 6 years. And unfortunately, this younger population is especially vulnerable to this. But keep in mind that accidental overdoses are preventable. And that's such an important education point. And, we all remember just how devastating the opioid epidemic has been to families and to communities. Between 2017 and 2021, in the throes, of the opioid epidemic, the number of overdose deaths increased by 70%, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse. So, FWA at Prime in particular is all about saving people's lives. So to have a conversation about all of this and, shine a light on this very important topic. I'm so very excited to welcome my guest, Mitchell Scott. So, hi, Mitch. Welcome to Pharmacy Friends.
Hello, thank you very much. Always love the opportunity to talk about what we do. We're very passionate about it, and anytime I can share all the great work my team does, I'm right there for it.
Yeah, so a little backstory for our listeners. I heard Mitch speak about FWA at one of our conferences. And Mitch, you had such a powerful message that we wanted to have you as a guest on Pharmacy Friends so our listeners can all hear your message as well. All right, so your background is in law enforcement. I'm curious, how did you get involved with FWA or Prime?
Yeah, so I spent over 32 years in law enforcement, and I retired as a chief of police from a suburban city outside the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. And in fact, when I was a chief, I wasn't looking to retire, but a position with Prime came open, the director of their of the Special Investigations Unit, and I'm all about challenges and bettering myself. And looking at that position, I spoke with my wife. We conversed on it, and we thought, you know what, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to broaden my horizon, right? Learn something that I'm really not very familiar with, but take the leap, right? And go out and go ahead and invest in something. And I was fortunate enough to be hired as the director of the Prime Special Investigations Unit. So I was really shocked, right? When I first became the director, I've seen so many different things: homicides, sexual assaults, home invasions, robberies, thefts, right? Nothing really shocked me anymore in my career in law enforcement. But when I came to Prime, I was blown away with the amount of fraud that was happening in the pharmacy industry. And it, if you're not a part of this world, you really don't understand it. And even though I was in law enforcement, really wasn't a part of this world to get into the depths. And I was just shocked about how much fraud is happening and waste and abuse and how that really impacts us all, right? So that's really how I got into this.
Wow. Well, I'm really glad you took that leap and joined us here at Prime. And Chief Scott, thank you for your service.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So help us better understand the why behind FWA, right? Why is this work so important? I guess, why do you do what you do?
I call my group really like the sheepdogs, right? Because we are sheepdogs that oversee our flock, and our flock is Prime, our clients, our members, to make sure that we are there for them and we're protecting them. And every group has to have a regulatory group that oversees and protects them. Because if you don't have that, the bad guys are going to take advantage of it. And we see that. Even though we have it, we still see the bad guys taking advantage of it. So we want to have systems in place that we're holding people accountable and recouping funds, because we all know that in this industry, when things are not held in check, that drives up cost. It drives up the availability to get medication when individuals don't have that. And we kind of saw that, right, in the TikTok craze with the GLP-1. So that is all very important for us to understand why we have FWA oversight, because of those concerns right there.
And I guess what I'm hearing you say too is that you're proactive about it, right? When I think about the work that we do at Prime, we really do try to challenge the norms, right? And save, simplify, provide solutions in a really complex healthcare system. And the medications certainly we want them to be more affordable, but save also means saving lives, right? And helping people achieve better health. And it's I think this with FWA in particular, it hits home, right? It's personal to folks. So maybe just tell me a little bit about the various offerings that you and your team have through the work that you do with FWA, and maybe what's unique about FWA here at Prime.
Yeah, so like I said, every PBM will have an FWA unit. It's just how do they approach it? And I think we're very unique here at Prime. We don't try to be reactive. We try to be proactive. And how can we do that? Well, we offered the core offering with regards to our unit, our department area, which will focuses on the pharmacy audit side of the house. It also focuses on the credentialing of pharmacies in our network. and it focuses on pharmacy and investigations. So fraudulent pharmacies that are conducting fraudulent activity. And then in roughly 2018, we recognized at the end of the year that, hey, there's a gap, right, with the member prescriber side of pharmacy and everything. So we created our advanced FWA product, which really focuses on the member and prescriber behavior and actions. And we offer that to our clients that wish to participate in that. And that's our advanced FWA product. And that early on, it started on focusing on just the investigation and behavior. But as the years have gone on, we continually grow that program, our product, with programs inside of it with regards to being proactive. How can we prevent things from happening before they happen? So we have, for example, a prescriber reject edit. So if we know a prescriber is completely 90%, 95% bad, we work with the clients and we can put an edit in place where we prevent this bad prescriber from getting any claims processed. And I can tell you that we have, over the course of the years, we have saved our clients tens of millions of dollars by placing these edits in place. So it's crucial, right, to be proactive, whether it's a lock-in program with individuals that are substance use disorders and they need that assistance. We have registered nurse that works with the client's case management experience. So what's the best course of action to help this member? It's all about patient safety, right? It's not always about retributions and getting back. It's about making sure that the members are getting the level of care that they deserve and require, and the same level of care that we would want our loved ones to have, right? So we're there for them and to make sure that their benefits aren't affected inappropriately and things like that. So we offer also, we have a part of our group, we have a clinical support side, and that really supports both the core and the advanced FWA as well. So we're very robust. We have combined over 1,000 years of experience, as I mentioned, with pharmacists, pharmacy techs, former law enforcement, financial investigators, data analysts, health analysts. We have just a slew of different people, and it's important. The reason why we're so diverse, and I love this, is we all look at things through different lenses. And why that's important to understand is we feed off each other, right? We learn from each other and we look at things through different angles. And it's important to do that so we don't get pigeonholed, we don't get tunnel vision. We are able to collaborate and work with it well within our area as well as outside of our area. So
Yeah.
that's really what we offer.
Yeah, and what you're describing, excuse me, as I'm hearing you talk, is sort of that interdisciplinary team approach, right? Each kind of bringing different expertise, skill sets, and perspective, right, as you mentioned, to the table. And it sounds like you guys are part of that extended healthcare team, really looking out for patients and providing education too along the way. So really interesting. I love that. What are some examples of FWA cases maybe that you've encountered, Mitch? I bet you have some interesting stories to tell.
Yeah, the SIU is always a sexy thing, right? Everyone wants to know the good stories because they're exciting. I can tell you that, for pharmacy investigations, our team is very proactive with that. We have our FWA analytics team really drives looking at 100% of our data as it comes through. There was a pharmacy that was discovered where all of a sudden their utilization spiked drastically. So that, when you go from 40 or 20,000 to all of a sudden you're doing $700,000-800,000 within a month, something's going on. So we looked at it. We opened up an investigation. We did outreach to one, and primarily on this one case, there was just one prescriber. So that's a red flag, right, as well. So we reached out to the prescriber and we interviewed him, and he said, I've been retired for 3 years. 100% of those claims are fraudulent. So we were able to stop payment and activate, substantiate our investigation. We held the pharmacy, put it in front of our pharmacy disciplinary action committee, which reviews pharmacies that we find and substantiate FWA. The pharmacy was termed from our network, and we recouped over $2 million all within 30 days. So we stopped $2 million from going out the door. So that's always exciting to be able to stop that. But we've had instances where we've done investigations and we've gone on site, and we've had it where the pharmacist in charge has hid his pharmacy techs and employees in the basement so we couldn't interview them. We've had it where
Oh,
we've gone
wow.
to and in on site, and we're asking them, it's a retail pharmacy supposed to be, they have a cash register on the counter, not too many drugs on the shelf. So we say, well, how do you ring up a person when they come in and buy something? They go, well, we use this cash register right here. We ring them up to complete the purchase. And the investigator goes up there and then picks up the plug-in and said, well, do you want to plug it in?
Mm,
So it's just was
wow.
a prop, right? So those are things that we've seen, and it's really interesting. We have other cases where if we look at a prescriber, we had telemedicine schemes were very common where you see these prescribers work for a telemedicine company. They get paid $25 to work per file, and they are instructed that this is the file you have. You're allowed to pick these different drugs for this patient. The prescribers are assuming that another practitioner is meeting with these individuals, and these are having conversations with them. So this young prescriber was involved with this telemedicine company, and it was primarily around lidocaine creams, which over the counter it's like $7 a tube, but a
Right.
prescription is $1,000 a tube.
Hmm.
So he was just doing these, pushing these out, right? Just because you're a prescriber, you may be extremely intelligent, but he was naive to the world, right? So he had over $745,000 in utilization in a
Wow.
time period. So we interviewed him and we told him what was going on and why we're interviewing him. He freaked out, thought he was going to lose his medical license. Um, totally understand trying to get ahead in life, trying to pay off that student loan debt and everything. So after our conversation with him, we monitor his behavior for the next 6 months to see you know what happened. We educate, right? We try to do one or two things with the prescriber. They're going to, obviously we report to regulatory groups, but if they're really a bad apple, they're going to keep up with their bad behavior. But if they're just caught up in a scheme, naive to the world, naive to the schemes with these individuals that take advantage of it, their behavior should be changing, right? And that was a great example of seeing that young man's behavior altered and changed. So he went from $745,000 in utilization to the next 6 months, $6,000.
Wow.
So that's great, right? Because that's something that it's going to stick with him for the rest of his life. He's never going to forget that.
For sure.
So that's just a couple of the stories, but that's the kind of stuff we're seeing and how we can make an impact and hold people accountable if we need to.
Yeah, and you mentioned the regulatory bodies, right? I mean, as I was thinking about, the work and you're describing your work, it's a big lift, right? So, and you've got, a great team, and who all do you work with, I guess, to make all this happen, right? I guess who are you collaborating with?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So if you think about collaboration, well, obviously we collaborate within our team and our larger team as well. Within we fall underneath the network management team, but we also collaborate with other groups, whether it be within Prime, right, clinical and different groups with regards to formularies and seeing and identifying things to work with the clients to help change things and alter things and get education out there. But we collaborate with our clients. We're big collaborators with our clients. We'll work hand in hand with them. I always tell our clients, we're not there to be behind you. We're there to stand beside you and making sure that we're a great partner. But we also partner with regulatory authorities. So, if you think about it, with whether it be Board of Pharmacy, Board of Nursing, Board of Health, Board of Medicine, as well as OIG, DEA, and FBI. And I can tell you, nothing makes you feel better. I was at a national conference, and uh, a person approached me and they identified themselves as an FBI agent, and they said, Mitch, I knew you were here, so I wanted to talk to you. I wanted to let you know that we at the FBI have been receiving some of your referrals for pharmacy investigations and things like that, which a referral is a case summary of our investigation. And he said the level of detail and the level of work that your team provides us is above all, and it really sets the bar for others to follow. And I wanted to make sure that you are aware of that. And we are really excited about continuing our partnership, and hopefully we can collaborate more. So that makes you feel good when you're in that. It wasn't solicited. It just out of the blue came up to me and said that. So I couldn't wait to get back to let my team know that, hey, they see what you guys are doing to keep up the good work.
Wow, that's fantastic feedback. Yeah, for sure, for someone, to kind of come to you and provide that. And I think that, as I think about this too, and hearing you talk, and having heard you at the conference previously, Mitch, it's your North Star is about saving lives, right? And I've heard you say if you save one life, it's worth it. And so I think that really helps, guide all this forward.
If everything we're doing and all the efforts we're putting forth, and I've said it before, if we can save just one life, it is worth it. It's worth it just to save one life. You can't put a cost on a life, right? So if we could save one life, that's worth it.
Yeah, making sure, people get the care we would want for our loved ones.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, you talked about, SIU quite a bit, and it's so very interesting. And, tell our listeners a little bit more about how you tackle FWA.
Yeah, if and I touched a little bit on our core offering and audits and things, and that is, look, like I said, SIU is the sexy thing. Audit is purposeful though, right? That's the control of the waste and whatnot of that area. And audits is just as much as important as the SIU side. Audits really focus on ensuring that claims are processed appropriately. Claims are processed as they are written with regards to how the pharmacy or pharmacist written the claim for, or I'm sorry, prescriber written the claim for the pharmacy to follow. So we look at that, we look at the drugs, we educate these pharmacists, right? So our pharmacy audit team, we do daily reviews, we do retrospective reviews, and we do on-site reviews. And we try to educate the pharmacies as much as possible. We want the pharmacies to be successful, because if they're successful, Prime's successful, but more importantly, the members are able to get their medications when they need to get them. So that's extremely important to us. Other side of the house is we have a clinical support team that's underneath my umbrella, and I have several pharmacists and clinical nurses. And why that's important is because they're tasked with, earlier on I mentioned how we try to be proactive. Well, our pharmacists are tasked with looking at new drugs coming out, looking at different issues that we may see and might be a concern, to address it so we can get ahead of it. They work with our analytics team building out models of different drugs so we can capture whether it be audit errors possibly or SIU concerns. They work with the audit team and the SIU investigators, the auditors and investigators, to educate them about different drugs, of what they're seeing, so they are more informed when they're doing their audits and doing the investigations when they're looking at different drugs. So we're trying to be more proactive with it. Just in having that knowledge and having that base makes us stronger and makes us a better unit.
Yeah, again, that interdisciplinary team, that we talked about earlier, so powerful to get to have that, and that evidence-based focus too, right, with the clinicians that you have on your team. So, Mitch, as we start to wrap up our conversation, I'd love to hear what's on the horizon for you, right? What are some trends that you're watching in 2025?
Yeah, if you think about, well, it started in 2023 with the GLP-1. Still, even the major industries, right? CMS thought it was going to tick down a little bit. Boy, were we wrong with that. It stayed in 2024. And, if we look at the horizon, what's going to happen? Well, This is one reason why I love having pharmacists on my team is they're looking at these FDA approved lists that are coming out with drugs and different things and what are concerns. So GLP-1 I think is still going to be a concern. And the reason why I say that is even though we've gotten better at looking at that, and when I say gotten better, there's a lot of issues early on with prescribers primarily prescribing the GLP-1s when they should not be. I mean, there's no reason why a dermatologist should be prescribing Ozempic. You're a dermatologist, so
Hmm.
there's no reason why an individual who's not diabetic to receive Ozempic, and there's no reason why the doctor should say to the member, "We're going to make you a diabetic," and the member has really no clue what's going on. It hasn't had their A1C checked, no previous medication for diabetes or whatsoever. So they're skirting the system to get the GLP-1 out to the members. So with that being said, we're looking at that, but there's so many more drugs coming out. There's more drugs with regards to not only are they vaccines, but they're also pill form coming out that we're really going to have to watch and regulate to make sure that they're being prescribed appropriately, and different aspects of like that of what's going to happen because pills are apt to be taken because some people are just adverse to having it to take a shot, right? They don't want to have to
Hmm.
do that. Where pills is much easier for individuals at times. So that there's a lot of different GLP-1 drugs coming out because the industry realizes that's a hot commodity, right? They found all these new they're finding on almost it seems like daily basis, but a new cure for the use of these drugs, right? Oh, if you use this GLP-1, it can help with this, it can help with that. So the FDA is really evaluating this, but when that happens, that's when you see the misuse, right? You have to work with the clients. I think Prime has done a wonderful job with GLP-1s, with
Hmm.
getting documentation out there and educating people. But that's what we have done, right? So the trends like that, that's what we're doing. We've provided documents for our clients on GLP-1s, on schemes, different things, whether it's opioids or something like that, that they can provide to their members to help educate them. So really,
Hmm.
that's the future, right? How can we educate people to make sure they're taking things appropriately?
Right, and you mentioned, GLP-1s, obviously they're top of mind for all stakeholders, I would say. And we put out an evidence-based publication on the pipeline. You were just talking about your team and how they're watching what's coming and, from, in terms of FDA approvals and whatnot. And so we have a GLP-1 pipeline update publication that's available on the Prime site. Excuse me. And so and we're monitoring all of that, what's coming, both in terms of new drugs and new formulations in that GLP-1 space, but also new indications like new uses, like you said, Mitch, for those products. So, yeah, certainly an active space, I would say. So,
Yes, yes, it is.
yeah. So,
Yes.
what else do you have going on for 2025?
Well, some things it's funny too. Some things become cyclical, right? Where they go away and then all of a sudden they come back. If I think about there was that foot bath scheme that had taken place at one point in 2019. Sometimes it rears its ugly head again, and it was a scheme where podiatrists were telling individuals that they need to put this cream in a foot bath. They need to and put these eye drops, squeeze this into the water of the foot bath, and soak their feet twice a day.
Oh my
Problem
goodness.
is, all of these drugs were highly expensive, right? Creams, it was like a lidocaine cream, different kind of creams, and different things like that. $1,000 a tube. Where we've seen it where it wasn't our case, but during the CMS conference, they showed a picture of one member had, if you know what I'm talking about, they had those 20-pound Rubbermaid totes. That individual had a month's supply in that tote, and it
Mm.
was full of creams because you're getting 4 creams a day, and you figure for 30 days, so he had over 120 creams in there. So
Wow.
just waste, right? And a lot of these members are like, I don't even know what to do with this stuff. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense because it was inappropriate. We did fax blasts to all the pharmacies out there saying, hey, pharmacists, it's your responsibility to look at this, do clinical judgment to make sure it's appropriate, right?
Right.
Education is the key. So that one, and then the telemedicine, it still is out there. We're still diving out. But I can tell you, we are always looking for what's the next best, the biggest thing going to happen, right? Not the best thing, but the biggest thing. What's the next biggest thing going to happen? And we're looking at trends and different things like that.
Yeah, wow, that's really interesting. And yeah, I can't wait to kind of continue following the good work that you and your team do, Mitch. So it's been a pleasure talking to you. I'm so glad you joined me here on Pharmacy Friends, and thanks for coming on and sharing your insights.
Pleasure was mine. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share what we do.
And thank you to all of our listeners for joining us. I look forward to having you join future podcasts. There you have it. Just a genuine guy who walks the talk to help people and protect our community from those who look to deceive others. Thanks, Mitch, and thank you, listeners, for giving this episode a listen. If you haven't already, go ahead and follow our show to get more insights on other healthcare topics.